Well, welcome everybody out to the Elevate Construction Podcast. We're here with Dr. Steve and Amanda Hill today with Biohealth Management, some of our favorite folks. This is going to be podcast number 178. So this will air on Monday. And so I hope everyone's having a great Monday. Please say hi, y'all.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. I hope the holidays were good for everyone.
Yeah. Did I trip you up? Y'all is you guys in Texas. So like if you're in Texas, instead of saying you guys, you say y'all. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that
you come back to Jersey, we'll be going to use.
Yeah, use. I love it. Well, so I'm going to start this out just a little bit differently. So Dr. Steve's prepared, not to put you too much on the spot, but a really nice little topic for us today. But I want to ask you one thing before we go. I'd like to start with you, Amanda, first. What are you most excited about in 2021? And it can be anything. It can be family. It could be new house. It can be kids getting married. It can be anything. What are you most excited about?
I think everyone's just excited that 2020 is over.
Well,
I'm excited to have the chance to get back to our mainland clients and be able to take care of other people outside of Hawaii, and getting back to some kind of normalcy and travel to see others.
Okay, I like that. Dr. Steve, what about you?
Well, I'm glad that we were all able to survive the 2020 toilet paper apocalypse. We got through that. I think most of us stayed up New Year's Eve, not to welcome in 2021, but just to make sure 2020 hit the road.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to, as she said, get back on track. There's been a lot of people who have missed out on a lot of different things because of the nature of COVID. And I'm hoping we got a little bit more of a handle on it and we can move forward and get back to normalcy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know when that happens, and please don't shoot me for saying this, but I don't know if it happens in a year or 6 months or whatever, but I just have to believe that somehow there's an end in sight here. So let me put you on the spot. What are some things that you thought were good, that were different, that came out of 2020?
Well, we opened our clinic. So
Okay.
I opened up a clinic in Hawaii, and we were able to pivot our business a little bit. I was able to do 2 free weight loss challenges for people who are inside of our program and their significant others, husbands or wives. And so we were still able to give a lot and help a lot of people without asking for anything in return. So it was just nice to be able to give.
Okay, that's fantastic. I like that. What about you, Dr. Steve? Is it the same thing?
Again, we got a lot of phone calls in from people that were looking for different solutions for some of the things that they were having, because we couldn't see as many people as we would like at some of the sites.
Okay.
Because we were closed down for numerous months at times here in Hawaii, that it made it difficult. But we've got people who now recognize that they miss the type of program we have.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. When you have it, a program that is taking care of you month after month, and then you don't have it, people recognize that they need to take participation in their own lives to keep themselves motivated. And we do that with our program when we go from site to site. So,
yeah, I love that. Well, for me, so I love that you guys were able to give and still continue. I do feel like you're 100% spot on that. People are realizing some of the things that they took for granted just a little bit, right? For me personally, being on lockdown, church changed and we were at home. Work, I was at home a lot. And so with the 11 kids, and I showed you guys a picture before the episode there, but it was fantastic. It was like a staycation for us. In my backyard, I don't have a super nice backyard, but we've got plenty of space back here and some swings and a little fire pit and stuff like that. And so we had a great time. But the other thing is, I do miss that connection with people and some of the things that I kind of took for granted. So it's been an amazing year for us. Obviously, I told you before we started this business, and now I'm full time. So it's been pretty good. But there's a lot of folks that haven't had a good year. So yeah, there you go. Well, thank you for that quick intro. Go ahead.
Well, and that's what brought me to when you and I were contemplating next topics. It's what brought me to where we're going to go today. Because even people on the TVs, people you read about it on the internet, as far as the types of hurdles people have to overcome during the holiday seasons.
Yeah.
And, we tend to think, you talk about this during the holidays, but you get people along the way during the course of the year who run into different obstacles as well, as far as trying to maintain the integrity of their own spirit, their own faith. And maybe it's time, as I told you, we're going to be able to address a lot of the employees' health considerations as we go forward. But, there's one thing that this country needs more than good construction men, is that we just need better men. And women as well. I'm not, I'm not saying no to that. So if what we do today hits on only one person or a handful of people, that it inspires them to get to the next level of where they want to be, then we've done something worthwhile today.
So it's really about that wheel of life thing, where if their physiology is good, their family's good, right? Spirituality is good, their mental state's good, finances are good, then they're going to show up well at work, right? And that was something that the people that I was talking to, they hadn't really heard before, because I don't think people talk about it a lot. And to your point, Dr. Steve, he said, there's nobody talking about, well, and this is just no, it's exactly what you're talking about, really. Nobody's talking about being healthy at home with families. Nobody's talking about, well, we are, but in the industry, nobody's talking about how can I be a better husband or wife? How can I be a better father? How can I show up right 100% for my family and have the right physiology to go with it? So I thought that was kind of a nice precursor to what we're going to talk about today, is how can you be a whole human being?
One statement came across me in that said, I'm paraphrasing here, but if the circle of friends you hang out with don't inspire you, you're no longer in a circle, you're in a cage. So you need to break out. And so we all have to find our level of what inspires us. And I think that's the search. You got to find out what is that thing that inspires you to get to the next level. Because, I've had problems with it myself, trying to get to the next level at times, because you get beaten up by all the different things from Monday to Friday and Saturdays. And it's tough to stay on track. So I think if periodically we can have those podcasts that allow people to stay on track, and it helps them because it's helping us. The only competitor one has really is the person you were yesterday. Yeah. So it's if we can find motivators out there to inspire them to not only take care of themselves on the work sites, but off the work sites, then geez, that's even more powerful of a message. I came across a story on the internet as far as the 7 wonders of the world. And of course, many of us know them as far as the Great Pyramid, the Taj Mahal, Grand Canyon, Empire State Building, St. Peter's Basilica, Great Wall of China, Grand Canyon, if I said it again. And there was a girl from Ecuador in a school, I think in Texas or in California, and she didn't understand it. And she had written down her 7 greatest wonders of the world. And she wrote down touch and taste, see, to hear, to feel, to laugh, and to love. And I thought, boy, to focus on her 7 wonders of the world would certainly enhance human race today more than the other building blocks of 7 wonders of the world. So as we go forward today, I just thought, we can talk about what are the things that can inspire us to embrace more of this girl who really came up what I thought were tremendous thoughts to spend time on, rather than we take for granted the 7 wonders of the world anymore today, because the world is so global today. You can go see any of them, but when we come into the confines of our own house, do we recognize how important it is to laugh and to love and to hear and feel and touch and taste?
I love that. So do me a favor, because I think I've got a good way to do this. We could go back and forth really quickly with this. Can you list those again? Did you have those in front of you?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. I'll type them down.
Touch, taste, see, hear, feel, laugh, and love.
Okay. I love that. All right. So here's what I'd like to do. Let me say something before we go, is that I'm not saying that everything is just inputs and outputs and listed in kind of, or mentioned that in kind of a callous way. But I do think what we intake, right, produces a lot of our outputs. And when you all are talking about how do we take care of our bodies, right, the food that we eat is part of our intake, right? Our exercise is part of our intake. How we're stretching is part of our intake. And then our output is how does our body perform? How do we feel? Right. So that's like data in, data out. Right. So when I think of these other seven wonders, and I appreciate that story. So for those of you who didn't hear this, I don't know if I mentioned this while we're recording. So he sent me this video, or one of you, I can't remember who sent this to me, but I watched it and it was a beautiful little message, because a lot of times we think of the seven wonders of the world being man-made, right? Or something that maybe be made by nature. But what about those things that were created by God? Or, and that's not to offend somebody who might feel differently about certain things. Whatever was behind creating it, touch, taste, sight, our ability to hear, feel, laugh, love, these are pretty wonderful things. So if we're talking about how we can take our next step, let's talk about see. When I think about sight, how can we use sight to take our next step and appreciate that as a wonder of the world? An easy one would be watch inspiring media. When we're talking to craft or workers, or even construction managers, or anybody, even if they're an executive in a company, what we see all the time, is it inspiring or is it garbage, right? Because if it's inspiring, whatever comes back out as an output by way of beliefs, moods, what I verbalize, what I speak is going to be good as well. What do you guys think on the sight part? Anything you want to add?
Big one, but I would actually take it a little bit different and say take your eyes off of media and just watch your kids. For me, it's my nephew and my nieces. Watch them play and enjoy life and see it from such a innocent viewpoint.
Yeah.
And how much you laugh and love. Take your eyes off your phone and actually watch and observe your family.
I like that. So I'll kick one back to you, and then Dr. Steve's got to hit a home run here. So I would say, to your point, building on that, to actually see people. Mm-hmm. Meaning, and this happens to me a lot. I'm always in my head and thinking about stuff. Hey, with my next podcast with BioHealth, I'm always in my head, not looking at things. And there have been times where somebody said, Jason, slow down and actually see people, right? If you're asking them how they're doing, wouldn't it be neat if you actually cared? And so just to stop, watch them, watch their expressions, ask how they're doing, and see the people, feel them. And it sounds cliche, I don't mean like this, but, see into their soul a little bit, see into how they're feeling, see some of their brightness, their kindness, the expressions on their face, things like that. So see people. That's one that I would give. All right, back to you.
Well, you've left me with breadcrumbs here. But whether you started at C because you had a premonition here or a reason, I really think C almost starts it off, because much like both of you, I enjoyed coming back from New Jersey. I enjoyed seeing my kids, seeing the growth in them. Mm-hmm. And when you see them, it's so much easier to embrace them. And when you see, you're almost bringing in to touch, to feel, to laugh, to love. There's so much seeing. There's so many people that open up when you can see the people that you love and you care about. We can take this on the work site. When I see so many of the employees that we take care of, Hawaii here, COVID has slowed it down, but Hawaii, they hug you here. They hug you for the mere sense of just wanting to hug. That's their aloha here, is to share with you the spirit of togetherness. Yeah. And to see that, it's one of the things when I go back home, I talk about, there's some really true identity characteristics here that bring you back to another time. Mm-hmm. And when you see that, it it promotes you to love more, to laugh more, to hear things. So starting out with C is a prominent element here because it brings in so much of the other things that we're going to talk about.
I love it. And so for any of our, and I'm the person that I'm imagining, and they actually teach you this in podcasting, like trainings, is to imagine somebody. I'm imagining anybody in general, but specifically people coming up in their careers, and it doesn't even have to be construction, but coming up in their careers or wanting to, or, you know, maybe they feel stuck, maybe they don't, but what we take into our eyes, what we see, it is a lot of who we become. In fact, let me just accentuate the point real quick. What I was telling my son the other day, and this isn't religious or anything else like that. It's just how I think. It's a nice little analogy. Like when I say, "Hey, you're doing something wrong, son," you are this beautiful vessel. Like you're this. I'm not going to say empty pot because that doesn't sound great, but like you're this vessel that can contain whatever it needs to contain, right? And that's always going to be beautiful. Like you're it's large capacity, there's wonderful potential there, but it's whatever you put into it is what you're going to put out, what's going to come out of it, right? You can fill it with light or you can fill it with darkness, right? You can fill it with garbage media, or you can fill it with beautiful media, or like you said, Amanda, with beautiful experiences with people. And that seemed to resonate with him, because if I say, hey, you know, this isn't exactly what I think is the ideal here, he's like, well, what are you're criticizing me? You know, no, I'm saying you're the vessel. What are you going to bring into yourself? That's going to be the outputs as well, right? So for people coming into our industry or another industry or wherever you are in life, it really is about those inputs. And so as we close out the C part of this, make sure that you're looking at beautiful, remarkable things and taking that in through your eyes. Because if you're seeing people and seeing good experiences and seeing nature and seeing the beauty of the earth, then your life will be filled with family and people and beauty. So
See, what a change that would be from what we just had to witness and see in 2020,
yeah,
with all of the media, and everything that was thrown on us, social media, the news, the riots, all of that, which I understand why we had that, but this past year, we've seen a lot of violence, we've seen a lot of hatred, we have not seen a lot of beauty. So I'm looking 2021, I'm hoping everyone gets to experience peace and beauty and having an easement about it.
yeah, I absolutely love that.
I just thought of something. We're going over the 7 wonders from what this little girl brought up, and there just happens to be 7 days a week. And well, you could actually create your whole week by focusing on not only just your work, but when you want to bring in your family aspects, you could designate one of these to be my Tuesday. It's going to be to touch, or Wednesday to taste, or Sunday to love, and so forth. You could actually utilize this as a nice little calendar to remind you of the things we often forget or we push aside.
There you go. You have your content for your social media every day.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
I love it.
You
I
think
love it. How and all we got to do is write it down. So touch. And I'm just gonna go first because I want to continue leaving you breadcrumbs. So I'm just kidding. But like you said it right there, and I know there's COVID-19 that we have to worry about outside of our families, but hugs, pats on the shoulder. Even the other day, with my son or my daughter, they're very young. I'll just go, like, just as I'm talking to them, like put my hand on their cheek or something, and or hold their hand. The other day I was in the car driving with a couple of my kids. I held my kids' hands. That touch can be a really powerful thing, especially if we're using it to connect and to have a moment, and if people feel love through touch. Like, I'm one of those persons that, all guys like to be touched by girls, but on a family level, on an appropriate level, I communicate with touch. Even with friends or with strangers, I'll maybe put my hand on their shoulder. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. What are some of the times where we're using touch inappropriately, when we ball our fists, or when we're pushing somebody away, or when there's bullying in school? There's just a lot of negative things that can happen in life, and so I think touch is a beautiful thing that we can appreciate. What are your thoughts on that? I'll kick it over to you.
No, I 100% agree. And I like your analogy with touch. It doesn't mean that you have to so much be uh, touching somebody else to have the sensation. When you ball up your fist, you're generating energy, and it's such a negative. I can't tell you how many people we see who, when I have to go over our assessment and ask for broken bones, and it's in their hand, I'm like, you punched a wall.
Yeah.
Because it's anger, and that's how you release your anger. So just coaching on how a better way of using anger. But yes, for certain people, their love language, sensory information is through touch. In Hawaii, that hug is so important. For me, that's not my love language. It's not my sensory input. That so I'm more just with my family. Like I do. There's nothing sweeter than hugging a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, science. Your oxytocins are going through your brain. It makes you love them so much more. But it's just nice to have that even like being close to somebody,
Yeah.
being less than 6 feet apart and feeling the energy from two people. It's pretty dynamic on
Yeah.
how that could make you feel better.
Breadcrumbs. Um,
I'll give you can go first next time.
Listen, I just think it's part of the essential characteristics that we as humans need. The hugging, as we've indicated, the handshaking, the embracement of one another, to be able to communicate while you're touching. Listen, we're all molecularly involved with one another. We all connect on a particular strain of electrical pulses. And when you reach out and do touch someone, and in my field, we're always touching somebody, but that patient that relies on us to find solutions for them, there's an integral aspect of connecting not only the verbal directions that we give them, but that particular hands-on application to find the solution for them. I know how important it is. The end result is how the employee takes that type of action and goes off to their site, less pain, feeling better. So, it's part of all the different characteristics we need as we're covering this. You need to touch. You need to touch.
And
Yeah,
we need oh, sorry, go ahead.
touching the sand, touching the ocean,
Yeah.
things that bring you joy. Embrace and be present where you're at, and that's just use that sensory.
I also thought how things touch us.
Yeah.
Certain my son and I were very big into music, and we've often say to one another, we'll text, good music can either make you forget everything, or it can make you remember everything.
Yes.
So it can touch you in that fashion
But
as
that's
well.
more of the hear and feel.
I can put it in any order that I want. All right. I'm going third. I'm moving things around the way I want.
You're touching.
You're gonna get touched. All right.
Breadcrumbs.
You.
You.
You. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you turned a breadcrumb into a feast because there's no reason for us to not feel good, right? And you were talking about people that have lost range of motion in their arms, feeling they can't lift their head above their shoulder or their hand above their shoulders. Most of the time when I'm talking to a family member, and it can be extended or in-house, about something that's bugging them and taking them away from life, it's usually a neck pain. Oops, I just hit a neck pain or a shoulder pain, or something going wrong physically, and it can really distract us from seeing from the other senses and appreciating those seven wonders. And so I think you hit it on the head. The other thing that I would say, which I'm going to throw in here, is people who are kinesthetic learners, who like to just go touch things and experiment with them, and really don't want to be looking or hearing things. They just want to be touching and experimenting with it and doing it themselves. There is a large part of the population, it's at least 15% that learn that way. And so we have to just really appreciate that. And I think you guys have covered it well. So, all right, Dr. Steve, I'm going to kick this one up for you.
Well, as I just mentioned, hearing, we're in a society today, as you mentioned before, we're inundated with media, work talk, radio talk, internet talk. Sometimes to hear silence is so that your brain can get a rest, so that you internally can talk to yourself and hear yourself. Sometimes we just got so much white noise that affects us that we don't get an opportunity to sit back and hear the messages that are coming into our brain, wherever they may be coming from,
Yeah.
and to sit back and have a quiet moment. Um, I think those are so important. There are some cultures during the course of the day that demand that they take an hour to just be quiet for themselves, so they can refocus. That's not taken away, as we often that we just said as well. To hear the good music that you want to hear,
Yeah.
to hear your kids call out your name. Is there anything better than a child saying, "Hey, Dad"? You never get tired of that.
Yeah. No.
So your friends reaching out from a telephone call that you haven't gotten for a while. So, or for you to take time. Who have I not contacted with? I'm
Yeah.
going to leave. I'm going to leave you to a nothing. Um, but to be able to reach out and I spend some time during the holidays texting some people and making some phone calls from people I hate to say too busy to get in contact with during the course of the year, but this year was a little bit different. But to reach out and to say hello, I mean, it takes a short period of time, but that hearing from our friends that have not heard from us, it resonates, and
Yeah.
that again can inspire ourselves.
Do you want to get the first breadcrumb, Amanda, or are you kicking it over to me?
So that was fantastic. Great job.
If I get a shot at it, I can go.
Be a little bit different in how we speak to other people and our tone that we use,
Oh,
and how
good.
hearing a certain tone can impact how somebody perceives a message,
Yeah.
actually impact the rest of their day as well. Being married for so long to Katie, you two probably have had to work on tone. With any couple, you have to work on tone, because
Mhm.
when you go to a certain tone, it's not going to make the other person happy. And so
Yeah.
same thing on the job site. If you talk to your employees with a certain tone, and it could actually have nothing to do with that employee, just what had happened earlier in your day, well, now you're just putting that anger and frustration on somebody else.
Yeah.
Instead of just coming to people with compassion and being friendly with others. Also understanding that, hey, if somebody makes a mistake, or if somebody's having a bad day, don't take it personal. Actually be more empathetic and want to understand, well, what's really going on.
Yeah.
Don't hammer down on them with negative verbiage.
Yeah. And assume positive intent. I like that point. Because I'll be kidding around with Katie and she says something back and I'm like, "What'd you say to me?" I'm like, "What'd you say to my? You say something about my mother?" I'm like, I go off the handle because she calls me a snowflake, which I am. But so we can assume that positive intent. We can give good tone, right? And we can hear positive intent before hearing negative intent first, right? So I absolutely love that. The other thing is, not if anybody's, when people listen to this podcast, like, this is huge in family. And the other thing is, just to build on your point, one time, and this is kind of a tender experience for me, but there was somebody in church and they sent a note to the head person in the congregation. It was like, "Hey, the kids are a little noisy up front, and I sit up front at church, and maybe they should consider sitting in the back." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so negative." And so I got all bent out of shape, and I just thought to myself, like, I love hearing some little kids with families at church, because that's like vibrant and alive, and it shows care and people that are connected and stuff. And if I hear people having fun and giggling or joking on the job site, or people with an upbeat tone or whatever it is, we can enjoy all that, right? We can enjoy the interaction of humans that now, after 2020, we've probably come to miss some of those sounds, right? And so I think that's a beautiful message. I love the message that you had about positive music, positive tone. And so when we're with our families, especially those who might even be starting their family life out a little bit younger, what are we hearing? Anything that you are hearing with the kids or with your husband or your spouse or your wife, can those be good tones, and are you listening to good things to where you can interpret those as good things, right? And actually, before we kick off the next one, I do want to say, back to the applicable science of these, for most of us guys in construction, when it comes to the touch, we should be using our touch to go home and hug and get the feeling of Dawn on our hands and do some dishes and get the feeling of baby wipes and maybe change a diaper, and not just go home and want to touch for sex. You know what I mean? Like, you want to touch for everything. Just don't just go straight to that, right? Experience all aspects of life, the service part of it as well. I had to say that for those guys, because that is a trap that almost every construction professional gets in when they get started, is just being one-sided at home. So, all right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kick.
Men have to realize that women are like ovens and men are like microwaves, and periodically you've got to become an oven.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do. So what's the analogy difference there? Help me out. I'm a little bit dense. So microwaves just kick on right away, right? Ovens have to heat up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, women take time to get to
Oh,
a
got it.
particular level with a man.
Got it.
Men are microwaves; they're there in 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to recognize that good relationships need to be nurtured, and that takes time. It can't be microwave.
Okay.
Some food has to be cooked at 200 degrees. Sometimes we're at 450, ready to go.
Yeah, 10-4. I love you guys. Okay, so I'll kick this one out. Let's see how you do with this one, Dr. Steve. Taste. No sympathy voting on my part. You're gonna have to hit this one out of the park.
Well, this is true, and I don't know how true it is for the rest of the country, but growing up on the East Coast, taste and smell was so important because good food with family creates an experience. And dinners sometimes with the way life is today, you don't have people sitting down today with family eating, and people eating at different times. But I still look back on a time when there were family dinners, and it was an event. It was an event when you were tasting the foods you grew up with, tasting the foods that you would go out to because a special restaurant served Italian. There was Spanish food or Vietnamese food or something. But sometimes when you knew you were going to someplace, the salivation already started because the taste of where you were about to go invigorated you.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that. And there are places that we have traveled throughout the country where taste apparently is not a predominant requirement in some of these cities.
That's funny.
I can only feel for them.
Yeah.
Because, good food, your body feels it when it's good food. Good food will make my eyes close.
Yeah.
Good food.
We have very different opinions of what good food is.
He said taste. I'm talking about
So,
taste.
As a nutrition specialist and as a coach, I have a very different opinion on this. Yes, we want food that tastes good. We also need to remember what healthy whole foods really taste like.
Yeah.
Because we're not taking the time to eat. We're not taking the time to make our foods. Well, actually, because of COVID, more people are making their foods, which is phenomenal. But it's just tasting the right things.
Yep.
Bring the right foods into your mouth to enjoy them and taste them. So one of the things I coach on with my clients is your food slowly and really savoring every bite, getting the flavors in and then swallowing. One, it helps with digestion, but that's a different topic. But it allows you to be present and mindful in the moment of enjoying that food, the smells of the food, the environment of where you're eating, the family that you're sitting down with, instead of just scarfing food in your mouth and not even having the chance to taste it.
Yep. And
I find that to be a little bit of an assault on taste.
I don't.
Oh,
Poor taste is getting picked on here.
hey, there's a balance there, right? There's a balance, right? So
why it's very unhealthy. So it's the importance of coaching and teaching, bringing healthy taste into your body and not processed food, which is scientifically engineered to taste a certain way that it creates a dopamine reaction and is addicting.
Salt.
It's not a
Salt.
It's just viewing food in a healthy way.
That's so funny. Well, so
But good taste in itself can't be responsible for all the different entities and ingredients that someone has put in.
No, 100%.
Taste. Taste.
I will
So I
provide
am
you with,
protecting taste right
I will
now
provide you with
as
the
one of the boys.
companies absolutely scientifically create certain tastes and chemical factors in their processed packaged food for it to be addictive, because
Yeah.
it's so many flavors at one time in your mouth that it creates that addictive pathway.
Hey, over here. I love you guys. So, hey,
I want a ruling on this.
I want to. Okay, here's the rule. Well, you got me with the Italian food. You get real Italian people, they're using real ingredients. They're using they're using real ingredients, real tomatoes, real seasoning, real pasta, real beautiful things, right? Not the processed stuff that Amanda's talking about, right? So I think you're absolutely right. The processed fast food, garbage food, we don't want that. That numbs down our taste where we
With
can't
you
do it.
there.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I do believe that you can take some very simple and healthy foods, and if you cook them right, excuse me, make them taste very, very good to where it's not like eating, like a prepackaged kale sandwich. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you can make them taste good. And I think we're proving your point, Dr. Steve, by saying we can't just rely on the cheap kicks with the garbage processed food. We need to be smart enough to have it, to appreciate beauty in the taste, and also make good foods taste good so that we can take care of our bodies. I think that's what
Right.
that's the ruling, right?
That's
Go
the
ahead.
ruling. And I'm going to throw in an addendum here, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good food will heighten this list. Good taste will create laughter,
Yep.
love,
Yep.
feel, because guess what? When that Italian warm bread comes across the table and you grab that's something good, because you're going to be dipping it.
It's learning how to eat in moderation.
I'm just saying.
Assault. That's so funny.
You show me a good night of dinner with good people around you, and I'm betting every one of them walking out is going, that evening tasted good.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's definitely, it brings in the environment. Part of me just hates on people because I'm allergic to so much and I can't have bread.
I should be a taste creator.
Well, let me tell you something that Tony Robbins once said in one of his events. Tony Robbins has always been like crazy with the fitness and do this, and you need an not an acidic environment in your body, but an alkaline environment. You need to have good foods. And he's over the top about it. And he was out on a date with I don't know what his wife's name is. Anyway, man, it just slipped my head. But anyway, out on a date with her, and she was having an ice cream. He was judging her, and he was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're fit and you believe all these things." And she's like, "Yeah, but I do want to live life every now and then." So I'm realizing more, like, during the holidays, like, there is no balance for a lot of folks, right? But every now and then, having something that tastes good, it's not going to kill you, right? It's when we become addicted to food. And C.S. Lewis once said, when we start to have such an unhealthy relationship with something that, like, it consumes us and we have addictions, then there's a problem, right? And Americans, we do that with sex and we do that with food, right? You know what I mean? Like, that we just do that. But we started to have an unhealthy relationship with food when foods began being processed and unhealthy and addictive, like you're saying, Amanda. So we need to eat the right things, appreciate beauty like you do, Dr. Steve, and also have a balance and temper that with common sense. There you go. You guys nailed it. But here's my point. And the reason this podcast is valuable is because we're fun to be around. But the other thing is, I call it cognitive decline. Like, there are times where if I'm not taking care of my body, I'm like, I'm going to have to listen to that book again. I feel dumb. And then when I'm on it, like I'm exercising, like I'm doing right now, and I'm eating greens and I'm doing my stuff and I'm jamming and I've got my vitamin D and I've got all my stuff, then my mind is sharp, and I'm listening to that book at like 2.8 times the speed, 3 times the speed, and I'm on it. I'm like, where's my next one, right? We have to have sharp minds. It's in construction or whatever industry we're in. And so we have to taste the right things and we have to intake good things. So that's my method. Anything you want to talk about before we get to the others?
So that topic is a whole other podcast of what we eat and how we perform on the job site.
Yeah.
All right, let's just let taste rest. All right, it's banged up a little bit. I got you. Okay.
It's okay. Well, let's go. Well, you're making me laugh right now. Let's go to feel next, and let's close it out strong. We don't just give me your thoughts on feel. Why is that a wonder to you?
Oh, well, we live our whole life by emotion. We're
Mhm.
emotional beings, and the smallest things can change how we feel. And if we don't have a good relationship with our emotions, and like you said, if we're not bringing in the right kind of input, it changes how we are able to express ourselves.
Mhm.
It changes our mental state. Most people don't know that our serotonin levels are our happy molecules basically are in our gut system. And so what we eat absolutely affects how we feel. And when we feel down, we're going to perceive information around us differently.
Yeah.
So being healthy and having healthy input just makes a better feeling about the world and your
Yeah.
environment. And right now, a lot of us don't have control of what's going on. None of us have control of really what's going on except our own actions and
Mhm.
how we perceive information and how we react.
Yeah,
in those
totally agree. And I would say that if we don't feel good, and I think it's healthy for us to say it, and I used to do, like, if you can see my hand, and for those of you listening, I'm putting my hand up and down and up and down. I used to have high ups and low downs, like, and as I get older, they even out more because I know to ask for help when I'm here, and I know to calm down a bit, not overextend myself when I'm here, right? And I think that what I've learned is it's just like we talked about in one of the last podcasts, fix what bugs us. It's important for us to feel emotionally, right, spiritually and physically well. And if we're not, I've had to personally, just as an example, and we're not going to be able to give all the answers, or you guys want as the professionals in one podcast, but do we have allergies? Are we exercising? Is there something medically wrong? Are we getting past our psychological opportunities? Are we getting past our fear? Are we dealing with past trauma? Are we making sure that we, through either meditation or other techniques, getting control of our mind and centering? Are we listening, like you said, Dr. Steve, once we are centered? I feel like there are some who just say, well, I'm up and down, just like the Katy Perry song, right? But they don't say, I'm going to go fix it. And my challenge would be like, let's fix it, because we deserve to feel, deserves.
I said we do deserve it.
We deserve to feel good. And how we feel is also how we're going to be able to treat others and how we're going to perform. So, Dr. Steve, we basically, there's not even breadcrumbs on that one left. But if you want to try.
No, but it brings to mind that how important this kind of a talk is, and perhaps we can spend more time at a later date. But feeling good, a lot of times, people hurt themselves sometimes on sites because they don't know any better. They just don't know any better. Maybe sometimes there's a percentage of people out there that don't recognize what feels good to them. I mean, we need to move forward to those things and embrace those things that make us feel good. Obviously, from a health perspective, but maybe you need to pick up the phone more and talk to a parent or your kids that makes you feel good. Maybe you need to sit back and just find time to read a good book that makes you feel good. Maybe you got to find some type of faith that you read that allows you to feel good. But sometimes people are in such a rushed period of time today with life, they forget to itemize certain things that allow their bodies to prosper. And
Yep.
feeling good certainly is one of them. Again, that's why I think what we're doing today is important. If somebody sits down and says, you know what, I'm gonna write down and I'm gonna listen to a particular band that makes me feel good. I'm gonna read a book over there that makes me feel good. I'm gonna give a buddy of mine a call who makes me feel good. Your body needs to be nurtured on so many different levels of which we're talking about tonight. That I'm feeling even better about these topics.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a whole loaf. Forget about the bread.
Forget about the
Oh.
breadcrumb. Yeah, I got it. You,
Work.
you.
No.
Go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
You guys.
Yeah, you guys.
It takes work. Feeling good is not it's a magic pill that you have to take. You have to consciously start to change how you think about things and how you want to feel and write it down because some people get a little overwhelmed, like, I want to feel good, but how do I do it? Well, start practicing. Write
Mhm.
down what you want to feel like and see what you can do, just small 5-minute daily actions to get you there. Doc sent me a quote he found that I need to share with my clients. But don't get upset by the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do. You have to do the work on
Mm.
yourself
That's good.
to actually get to where you want to be in life and to feel the way that you want to feel.
I love it.
You have to put the work in.
Say
Okay.
that again.
Don't be upset with the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do.
I mean, that the whole podcast is worth it just for that quote.
I
mean,
said
right-
it.
Yeah.
That could have been mine. That could have been my fuel right there. I said it.
Okay. I love it. Well, I'm going to put both of you on the spot now.
Okay.
And if you have an objection, we'll consider it. So, Dr. Steve, can you give me your thoughts on
Sounds like
laugh?
an objection.
Sounds like we're a little frozen. Okay, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
a little frozen. Oh, sorry. And now it says my internet connection is unstable, but now it's showing good. All right. So, Dr. Steve, can you do laugh and give me your final comments? And then, Amanda, you do love. And then we'll close out this podcast because this has been a great episode.
Okay. Laughing, I find, and I have to go back to taste, but laughing is when you have those people around you. And if I'm not sure, if I'm not mistaken about that, I believe serotonin, which is in your gut,
Mhm.
most of the serotonin can be purchased in an Italian restaurant. I think, pretty
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And just the other day, before I left Jersey, I met with a bunch of guys who I hadn't seen in a while. And we were in a nice Irish pub, and the stories were effervescent, and they were coming out a mile a minute, and the ambiance just couldn't be better. The laughter was from the gut. It was from the heart to the gut and out. And so many of the characteristics that we're talking about today was at that table, and it made me feel. I'm talking about it today because that's how good it made me feel.
Yeah.
Laugh with these guys I hadn't seen in a while, to break bread with them, share stories. Where COVID is everywhere. The hugs when we left could not have been stronger.
Yeah.
Than when we left, and to find that environment periodically. Now I couldn't hang out with those guys every night, but periodically, nothing better than what I went through with them.
I love it. And I'll throw a little quote your way. I've told you this before, but when people say money can't buy happiness, they're shopping at the wrong stores. All they got to do is go to a nice restaurant, right? With real food. Amanda's like, anyway, I love that. I love that. And laughter just makes the whole experience, and that's one thing. There's no reason for us at work to have stuffy, stupid, grumpy environments. We should be laughing and having a good time at work and loving each other. And that's a challenge for any employer out there. Don't be that kind of boss. Don't be that kind of person. Have a wonderful, welcoming environment. So, Amanda, what about you, boss? What about love?
Oh man, it goes along with that feeling thing. It's emotions. Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to open up your heart. How many grumpy superintendents are out there? Open up your heart a little bit. Love your people.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's important. It's okay to love. It's okay to love not just humans, love your animals, love your life and what it embodies. And when you start to look at your life more out of a loving perspective, it removes
Yep.
It really does. It removes hate. You no longer look at somebody with bias and with hatred. It allows you to approach uncomfortable situations better. So yeah, just be more loving towards others and have empathy. And it's okay to have boundaries. Doesn't mean don't have boundaries. Have your boundaries, but just show more love and how you love your life, and that will show with your actions.
I love it. In fact, there was I told you guys I just published the book Elevating Construction Superintendents, and there's a chapter in there that says love your people. And I talk about in the chapter, there's a marked difference between somebody who uses people as tools versus somebody who absolutely just loves their workers, loves their people. And the people that love their people create the environments, get the commitment, the engagement, the productivity, their whole heart, mind, and soul. I can't remember what book it was from, but there was a 40-year-old retiree who was at a retirement party and said, at the end of it, I'll always remember this, although I don't know where to cite it. I'll find it one of these days. But he said, for 40 years, they've had the work of my hands when they could have had the work of my hands, my mind, and my heart for no more money, no additional money. The same thing. All they would have had to do was ask or create that environment. So I think that's beautiful. If you could really provide that connection to people, man, that's when it gets remarkable. So, well, I love it.
No, it brings me to a statement I heard actually from Dave Graham.
Okay.
You remember him?
Yeah, I
but
do.
he said the foremen that use their people normally get a lower response from their people, but foremen who utilize their people get a step ahead, and there's more of teamwork.
I love that. Well, so here's our challenge as we head into, we're in 2021. I guess I'm a couple days behind, but we can appreciate the 7 wonders of these wonderful things that we just talked about, and really head in there and live a balanced life. Because again, I want to say to the people listening is we show up better. And it's really about how do we show up. When I'm at home, somebody once told me, and I like it, I won't go in, we'll talk about it in a future podcast, but he was like, it's kind of like you're playing 5 different chessboards or 7 or whatever. And, the foundational chessboard is you and your health, or maybe your relationship with God and your family, and then work. And then you have all these chessboards, right? And inspiration or the universe will tell you which one you're playing. Like you'll be guided which one you're playing at the time, but you show up and you play that game. And I love that analogy because I turned in my mind life into one chessboard, which is very one-dimensional. But really, we have different ones, and we'll be led in the moment. Like when I'm done with this, I'll be present playing chess with my family. I need to show up and be present. When I'm at work, I need to be present. When I'm on the podcast, I need to be present. When I'm at church, I need to be present. In order for us to be present, we need to appreciate those things we just talked about today. Because if we don't have those, if we're not seeing the right things, we're not hearing the right things, touching in the right way, if we're not laughing, we're not loving, if we're not feeling well, then we don't show up. And when we don't show up, then we're not playing the game. And if we're not playing the game, and I'm not saying like to win, I'm saying experiencing life, then why are we here, right? And so I think those are some beautiful messages, and I just want to say thank you to both of you, and on we go.
Here we go.
I think we
No,
covered it.
If any of your foremen or superintendents need to know about certain restaurants around the country, I may have been there already. I can create a little bit of a library for them.
Okay, on it. Well, there you heard it. Heard it from the horse's mouth, or however you say that. We're closing it down. Love you guys. See ya.